This week, we update the U.S. planting pace for corn and the near-term weather forecast.
We also look to South America. We're going to review the corn harvest, the weather forecasts, and export trends.
Hi, I'm Kat Sullivan.
And I'm Cesar Cruz.
And we're here to bring you this week's corn market update. Crop progress for the weekend was released Tuesday as offices were closed in honor of Memorial Day. Corn planting rose 13 points to 83% complete for last weekend, which matched analysts' predictions. Planting pace is now 1% ahead of the 5-year average. Ohio's planting pace increased by 33%, and Michigan and North Dakota increased by more than 20% to move ahead of their 5-year averages. Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Kansas gained ground but still trailed the 5-year average. Planting progresses as conditions allow, but many farmers continue to face delays. Across the nation, roughly 15.7 million acres are still waiting to be planted. Illinois has over 2 million acres remaining, Iowa has 1.5 million, and Indiana has 1.3 million acres to plant. Speaking of the weather and conditions for planting, a wide area of the U.S. is expected to stay slightly to moderately cooler than normal through Friday and Saturday, with maximum temperatures in the 60s and 70s. Our weather maps, courtesy of T-Storm Weather, forecast light rain affecting the western half of corn today and tomorrow, most likely resulting in 3/4 to 1.5 inches of rain. Some rain affects the eastern half of corn and soybeans Saturday through Sunday, starting Friday in the Mid-South, with 1.25 to 2.5 inches of rain forecast over hard red wheat in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas.
Now we're going to move to South America, where corn harvest has been occurring in Brazil and Argentina. So let's look at this chart. The left-hand side here, we have corn harvest progress in Argentina. 28% harvest in Argentina as of last week. This data is from the Buenos Aires Grain Exchange. Harvest progress has been moving very slow, at a very slow pace in Argentina, similar to what they had last year, 22-23. The only difference here is that in 22-23, Argentina harvested only 36 million metric tons of corn. And now, according to the USDA, they're expected to harvest 53 million metric tons. Crop conditions in Argentina this year are much better than last year. 14% rated as good and excellent, opposed to 4% last year. The only difference here is that this year, Argentina producers, they have been facing problems with corn leafhoppers, which are transmitting stunt corn disease to the corn in Argentina, especially in the north and the central areas of the country. When we compare the production estimates between local estimates and the USDA estimate, we're going to see that they are a little bit different. 6.5 million metric tons difference between the USDA and the Buenos Aires Grain Exchange, for example. Let's move now to Brazil, where the first and the second corn crop have been harvested. Let's look at this map. The first corn crop in Brazil is 80% harvested, a little bit behind the last year pace, 81.8%. Delays are occurring mostly in the central part of Brazil, in the Mato Piba region, the northeast part of Brazil. 19% of the corn, first corn in Brazil, is still maturing. Now take a look at this map that shows the second corn harvest progress in Brazil. You're going to see that the harvest has just started for the second corn crop, the safrinha crop in Brazil, which represents 77% of the total production in the country. You're going to see that started mainly in the main important states in Mato Grosso, Goiás, Paraná state. Has not started yet in the northern part of Brazil, Mato Piba region, in Minas Gerais state. About 56% of the corn in Brazil is still feeding grains. So this is important for us to check what is going to happen with the weather going forward that can affect the progress of the corn, development of the corn in Brazil going forward. This map now is a courtesy of T-Storm Weather and shows the weather forecast for Brazil for the next 2 weeks. Future precipitation in Brazil shows very little rain for the central part of Brazil. That's where most of the second corn crop is produced. A little bit of rain in South Brazil, where there has been problems with the flood in Rio Grande do Sul state. Brazil has started very early the dry season this year, at least 2-3 weeks earlier, and that might be a problem, especially when you look at the forecast for precipitation for the month of June. You're going to see that most areas in Brazil are expected to receive normal to below normal precipitation, especially in areas of Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná state, where they have been having less rain than expected. And if you combine that forecast with the anomaly for temperature in Brazil, you're going to see that Brazil for June is expected to have above normal temperatures for the whole country. The combination of dry weather and warmer temperatures in Brazil can actually cause decrease in forecast for production for both CONAB and USDA. In May, both CONAB and USDA adjusted their forecast for production, and the spread between those two agencies have decreased, but they're still very high, nearly 2 times higher than they were last year, 10.36 million metric tons, which is nearly 400 million bushels. And this is not only about the estimate for production that is different between CONAB and USDA. The highlighted areas in this chart here show how different those two agencies are regarding their export estimates. Even though the market year is a little bit different for CONAB and USDA, CONAB expects Brazil to export nearly 60% of the exports estimated by the USDA for 23-24. This next slide shows us that it's not only about the estimate for production in Brazil that's different between CONAB and USDA. The difference between the export estimates between CONAB and USDA is very large. CONAB estimates Brazil to export around 60% of the current estimates for the USDA, even though the market years are a little bit different. From February through January for CONAB, expecting 31 million metric tons, and USDA 50 million metric tons. It's going to be hard for us to forecast how much Brazil will actually export this year. One hint that we may have is to observe while Brazil is going to export the second corn crop. Exports in Brazil start to gain momentum after Brazil harvests the second corn crop starting in July. And depending on how much we see of exports coming on the second semester of 2024, we can actually have a suggestion of how much production and exports Brazil is going to have for the current market year. Now let's take a look at Argentina corn exports. Corn harvest progress in Argentina has been moving at a very slow pace, so have their exports, but we're expecting Argentina to gain momentum with their exports very soon as they harvest their corn. And the good news that we have here for Argentina is that they signed an agreement to export to China, and we haven't seen any exports to China so far, but the agreement's probably going to start working in July, when we're probably going to see more exports coming from Argentina. So there's more competition for the U.S. exports and also for Brazilian exports in 2024. Thanks for watching this week's update.
If you have questions, please reach out at 800-664-2321, and we'll connect you with one of our advisors in your area. We'll be back next week with Brian for our regularly scheduled update.